Now, Andrews, I think I now understand why we need to secure AI agents more so than we are today. Tell me why you guys have picked pen testing, offensive security, continuous testing. Why is that the right approach to this issue as opposed to a different angle to start?
Well, first of all, pen test is my background. I've been doing pen testing now for 25 years.
Is that why you're on Linux today and you couldn't use QuickTime like everyone else who comes on the show?
That is why I'm on Linux, yes. It's much easier to do testing from Linux environment than it is, from a lot of other environments. Why offensive? Because again, validation is needed, and the best validation is basically acting as an adversary. So basically, you're the hacker in that case. You get into that persona and you try to break into these systems. LLM is advancing so much that you cannot just hire a pen tester once a year. That's usually, industry standard. So if you're running like e-commerce environment or something like that, you will hire and do a manual pen test once a year. But these environments advancing so fast, you need something that can do it on a weekly basis or sometimes even daily basis. That's why continuous pen testing. And again, coming from this background, we're not just aware of these new attack vectors like, prompt injection and things like that. We're also looking at all the old school stuff that we can do just through the LLM. So we're using LLM not as, all in one, so to say. We're using it as a way to get into the system and see just exactly how far we can go, just like an actual attacker would do.
Okay. And in most cases, when you run a pen test on a company that hasn't really worked on its agentic AI security, what do you find? Are they wide open like a barn door to exploitation, or is their security okay, but just needs a little extra help?
It depends on the environment, but these days we're early in this game. So we see a lot of issues like, getting access to things like financial reports and financial information and getting access to the user information that you're not supposed to have and things like that.
Which could be a HIPAA violation, a GDPR violation, a breach
of violation, and so on and so forth. Yes.
All the bad acronyms essentially will come and bite you. Okay. So Aaron, I now understand problem, why you're going about it this way. I'm curious about the market itself, because to me, we've been talking about AI agents industry-wide for like 18 months or so. I presume that that's a little bit late. But what I'm not clear on yet is just how far they've been rolled out inside of actual enterprise scale customers. Basically, how much out there today is hype and how much out there is real use, driving real need for what ZioSec is working on?
Well, so I think that is such an incredible question, because we are at this point where the interest and from the executive team is there. They're pushing the organizations to deploy. Their investors are asking, how are we adding AI to our workflows? How are we adding AI to our products? So the momentum is going, but the challenge is the security teams don't have the tools to fully evaluate and fully mitigate that risk. So they're pumping the brakes. So you see a lot of talk about this, but if you talk to the organizations and you see how many agents have you onboarded, we're talking 2 or 3, maybe, right? We're not talking a lot.
But so just to put that number into context, how many agents do you think the average, Fortune 50 company will have in, say, 5 years?
Thousands. They're going to have...
They have basically zero compared to what they're going to have down the road.
You got it. And it's because of these systemic issues that we're facing. The technology is new, kind of like you're saying, probabilistic models, they can get things right most of the time, right? But it's not perfect. So a lot of what we're trying to do with our testing, we're offensively testing, but we can also do things like make sure that the model is giving the same answer, or at least within the same context of an answer. And being able to report out that degree of granularity to the security team, the compliance team, and the governance teams will then empower deployment of AI throughout the enterprise. Because right now, that's the major holdback, is they don't know what they don't know, and they're pulling back because the risks are huge. To having an agent you don't know how it works completely have access to all of your critical internal company data.
Yeah, that's what interns are for, not agents.